Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Jujutsu Kaisen. The Snow Woman wife at the beginning is so beautiful. Chapter 41. Paw. The real person's palm pressed directly on Lan Shuyan's face. Inaction transformation. Ha 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 ha. Just a monkey. Go to hell. Although the real person was vomiting blood, his tone was very excited. Lan. At the same time, Qingshan Shuiji's extremely cold voice sounded. Although she had no intention of taking action, she had actually been paying attention to Lan Shuyan. She didn't take action not because she really disliked the dirty soul of the real person, but because she wanted Lan Shuyan to accumulate more combat experience. She hoped that Lan Shuyan could become stronger. But her current curse power was erupting like a volcano. She was angry. At the moment when the real person's mouth was pouring out of his palm, she had already rushed over, but she was still not as fast as that arm. How can you die? I haven't eaten you yet. How can you die? Are you going to abandon me again and let me linger alone in a world without you? Qingshan Shuiji held her head with both hands and screamed, and the whole passage immediately turned into an icy world. She knew that the moment Lan Shuyan released the mirror flower, his body became that of an ordinary human, and the souls of ordinary humans could not withstand this ability at all. The sorcerer could withstand it several times because they had strong bodies and spell power, but no matter how strong the body of Lan Shuyan, who had become an ordinary human, was only at the higher end of the ordinary people. But that was still only within the range of ordinary people. Ah, what happened? But suddenly, Lan Shuyan's voice rang out. The real person was stunned, and Qingshan Shuiji stopped holding her head frantically. Qingshan Shuiji blinked her eyes and looked at Lan Shuyan, who turned back from the real person's palm and looked at her. She was a little stunned. How is that possible? How is that possible? Why are you okay? Zhenren wanted to press his palm to Lan Shuyan's head again, and his smile gradually twisted. But this time Lan Shuyan directly drew out the soul release knife and cut off the arm that came out of Zhenren's mouth, and Zhenren's broken body fell to the ground. At this time, Zhenren saw that there was a strange-shaped weapon piercing through his flesh and blood on the side of his arm that came out of his mouth. Lan Shuyan swung the Tien Ni Hokoshi held in his other hand, and the broken arm that came out of Zhenren's mouth fell to the ground. What it is? Why didn't my spell work? The real person was terrified. He had used all his strength just now, and all the spells were used to activate the spell. As long as he pressed the right button, he could instantly transform Lan Shuyan's soul. Ah, are you talking about that? Lan Shuyan swung the Tenihoko to shake off the blood. This Amagakiboko can interrupt all active spells. Your last attack really caught me off guard. After all, I didn't dare get too close to you just in case. But I still didn't expect that you would have arms coming out of your mouth, and they would be as long as rubber. Now, go to hell. Lan Shuyan grinned. But the real person's face changed wildly, and spider-like legs emerged from his broken body and moved quickly. It was obvious that he wanted to escape. A large amount of soul in his body had been cut off by Lan Shuyan. With his current soul capacity, he could only achieve this degree of physical change. Lan Shuyan threw Tien Ni Hoko out, and at this time, the tail of Tien Ni Hoko was connected to the Wanli lock. The moment Tien Ni Hoko penetrated the real person's body, he pulled the real person over, and when the real person's body came in front of him, he kicked the Tien Ni Hoko that was stabbed in the real person's body, and nailed the real person's body to the stone wall of the tunnel. No, I can't die here. Monkey. How could I be killed by a monkey? The real spider's legs were kicking. Do you know? I'm pretty good at bondage. For example, mirror flower. Lan Shuyan activated mirror flower again. He actually copied the real person's curse power and magic again. This made Qingshan Shuiji, who was trying hard to hide her gaffe, stunned. She remembered that Lan Shuyan's restraints would restrain the copied mirror image's curse power and magic, turning it into a state similar to heaven and tyrant. But why could she feel the curse power from Lan Shuyan now? Where are the restraints? Where did the restraints go? Qingshan Shuiji blurted out. Hey, I've already told you, I'm really good at bugs. The last time I copied the mirror image, I exchanged the binding of mantra and magic. What does it have to do with the mantra and magic I gained by activating the mirror flower this time? Lan Shuyan grinned. Finding bugs is what I am best at, Lan Shuyan. Can you play it like this? Qingshan Shuiji was stunned. So, water moon. Lan Shuyan didn't say anything more and directly transformed Mirror Flower into Water Moon. Because if you want to obtain the spell of the copied object with a certain probability, you must use the spell tactics of the copy mirror to kill the opponent. This is the limitation of Water Moon. No, no, Zhenren turned his head frantically. He kept trying to use Wu Wei transformation to escape, but the characteristics of Tian Nibiki made it impossible for him to activate his ability. He knew Lan Shuyan's ability, so he was very scared now. Now he couldn't activate the spell, which meant that if Lan Shuyan used his Wu Wei transformation on him, he would really die. He couldn't activate Wu Wei transformation to fight back. But Lan Shuyan directly pressed his palm on Zhenren's head. Wu Wei transformation, Lan Shuyan said calmly. The moment his voice fell, the mantra and spell in his body did not need him to control it at all, but automatically started the Wu Wei transformation like voice control. No, no, don't, ah. The real person's eyes were full of tears, but his body had already begun to twist, and his mutilated body was directly it started to expand, and exploded the next second, with blood and flesh flying everywhere. Most of them stuck to Lan Shuyan's body. Very good. Wu Wei transformation is at hand. Lan Shuyan grinned. But the cursed power and technique on his body have disappeared. But Lan Shuyan didn't care at all. He looked at his left hand that had just pressed on the real person's head. A black pattern appeared on the back of his hand, which looked very similar to the mark that appeared when Geto Suguru activated Death and Return. This made Qingshan Shuiji very curious. She floated directly to Lan Shuyan's side. A handkerchief appeared in her hand at some point. She gently wiped the scarlet on Lan Shuyan's body. But after a few wipes, the scarlet turned into black ashes and disappeared. Lan Shuyan looked at Qingshan Shuiji with a smile, and then stretched out his hand to hug Qingshan Shuiji's waist and held her in his arms. I was really touched by Miss Qingshan's anger just now. As expected, Miss Qingshan likes me, right? Lan Shuyan put his mouth close to Qingshan Shuiji's ear and spoke softly. This made Qingshan Shuiji immediately turn into a white light and escape from Lan Shuyan's arms, and reformed not far away. I don't have any. Qingshan Shuiji covered her mouth with her hands and glanced at Lan Shuyan. Okay, Miss Qingshan, you didn't. Lan Shuyan grinned. What a proud wife. She was obviously angry just now. But Miss Qingshan, what do you mean by abandoning you again? Lan Shuyan was quite interested in this. Humph, I didn't say it. I don't know. Qingshan Shuiji turned her back and didn't look at Lan Shuyan. This made Lan Shuyan tilt his head and think for a while. If Qingshan Shuiji didn't want to answer, then forget it. Anyway, you were lucky. Although Water Moon can have a chance to obtain the spell of the object being copied, the chance is really low. At least the last person who possessed Mirror Flower Water Moon may not succeed once in hundreds of attempts. Qingshan Shuiji did not look back and change the subject. Who said it was luck? I just set a bondage for Shuiyu again. Lan Shuyan grinned. This made Qingshan Shuiji turn around and look at Lan Shuyan, with a face full of question marks. No, can you really play with bondage casually? How can you play with bondage on everything? 100% allows Shuiyu to obtain the binding of the mirror technique. Before launching Water Moon, I can communicate with the other party and let him know that I want his technique. This is why I told this guy that I wanted his technique at the beginning. At the same time, I paid a price. A very serious price. Lan Shuyan sighed at this time. This made Qingshan Shuiji frown immediately. She looked at Lan Shuyan with some worry. Before Qingshan Shuiji asked what the price was and whether it was serious. Lan Shuyan's explanation sounded again. After meeting the prerequisites, telling the other party that I want his spell, and understanding his spell ability, I can use the specified price to get a 100% success rate when Water Moon is activated, and use inaction transformation, which can only be activated with positive energy. When Lan Shuyan said this, his expression was really heartbroken. What? Qingshan Shuiji was stunned, her beautiful and mature face full of doubts. That is, Lan Shuyan said close to Qingshan Shuiji's ear, grinning as white as black man's toothpaste. Qingshan Shuiji listened, but didn't react at first. After a while, she blinked and looked at Lan Shuyan. As a wife and a mother of children, Qingshan Shuiji certainly knew what Lan Shuyan's whisper meant. Length, 1 centimeter shorter. So, Qingxuan Shuiji covered her face directly. Oh my god, what on earth is this generation's mirror flower water moon holder? Can this thing be used as a designated price? Can this price really be considered a price? Do you think this price is not serious? No, no, no. This is very serious. Even 1 centimeter shorter is a blow to a man. The price is serious enough. I usually don't dare to pay this kind of price, but this time I just wanted the inaction transformation of this cursed spirit so much that I had to pay this price in exchange. Fortunately, I still have enough when I use all my power. Lan Shuyan boasted to Qingxuan Shuiji, at least he still has to use. Ah, all the restraints you mentioned before have specified a price, so wouldn't that be the price for violating them? Qingxuan Shuiji had a look on her face that said, I'm going to curse you. This was the first time she had encountered such an abusive use of restraints, and such an outrageous price for the use of restraints. Is the establishment of this kind of restraint really equal to the cost? Qingxuan Shuiji was so confused that she started to doubt herself. Why is it not equal? This price is very important, okay. Lan Shuyan argued directly. This made Qingxuan Shuiji very confused, because she could change size anywhere. Hey, Lan, why did you act on your own? At this moment, Nanami Kento's voice suddenly echoed in the passage. This made Lan Shuyan, who was explaining to Qingxuan Shuiji the importance of length of a man's dignity, look back at the dark passage. Nanami Kento was walking out of the darkness. This made Lan Shuyan grin. Sure enough, it was similar to the original book. Nanami Kento came over at this time. You are a step late, senior. The culprit has been dealt with by me. Lan Shuyan pulled down the tensiboko that was nailed to the wall and connected to the Wanli lock, and smiled as he talked to Nanami Kento. Nanami Kento immediately noticed the cursed tools in Lan Shuyan's hands. Tensai Hoko, Wanli lock, and the soul-releasing sword. Nanami Kento was very surprised. He recognized these 3 cursed tools. Huh, you care about this? I bought it from Wuho Prison Master. Lan Shuyan stuffed the cursed tool directly into the white snow pattern on his right hand. Nanami Jonren did not ask more questions, but wanted to know other. Lan, you said you solved the culprit. This is what Nanami Kento wants to know. Well, if you come earlier, maybe you can see him. Lan Shuyan spread his hands. Nanami, it's not that I want to steal your plot, but I really want the inaction transformation. And this can also be regarded as helping Yuji Itadori solve an old enemy. Dad, Mom, it hurts so much. At this time, the children's modified humans had already caught up with them. They would not disappear just because the real person died. Transformed humans, and it's still a child. Nanami Kento walked over and pulled out the thallium knife on his back. Let me do it. You are still a child. Nanaha Kento knew that these cyborgs were no longer alive. They were just cursed spirits who had lost their lives and retained their consciousness but could not act independently. Well, senior, let me try. Lan Shuyan also pressed Nanami Kento's shoulders, and then raised his left hand. Lan Shuyan's compassion for these children turned into positive energy, and Lan Shuyan also used this positive energy to inject magic power into his left palm. Unlike other magicians, Lan Shuyan's magic formula is not in the brain, but in the palm. Is this the reversal energy that Gojo Satoru mentioned? What is he going to do? Nanaha Kento was very confused. To be honest, he didn't want Lan Shuyan to kill this kind of cyborg, but he also wanted to see what Lan Shuyan was going to do. However, for a cyborg of this level, Lan Shuyan didn't need to activate the mirror image at all. But a gust of cold wind blew, and Lan Shuyan smiled. Because the feet and limbs of these cyborgs were directly frozen, making them stay where they were. Thank you, Miss Qingxuan. As expected, you are not only beautiful, but also kind. Lan Shuyan turned around to thank Qingxuan Shuiji and praised her. Qingxuan Shuiji just squinted her eyes and smiled, and didn't say anything. Lan Shuyan put his palm on one of the cyborg's heads. Reversal of the technique, transformation without action. Rhythm reversal inaction transformation. Lan Shuyan launched an inverted form of inaction transformation. The huge amount of positive energy was enough to support Lan Shuyan in performing inaction transformation. And with the injection of positive energy, the body of the cyborg child was actually rapidly recovering to human form, and the positive energy was transforming into vitality. 10 minutes later, A cute little girl with twin ponytails, delicate and naked, was formed. The moment she turned into a human form, the ice shattered directly. Lan Shuyan hurriedly hugged the child, took off his coat, put it on her, and then carefully put it aside. Next, Lan Shuyan spent another 40 minutes to perform in-action transformation on the remaining 4 cyborgs. They all returned to the appearance of human little boys. Lan Shuyan fell directly to the ground, with cold sweat on his forehead. Sure enough, using positive energy for too long is really tiring. Previously, the positive energy was used instantaneously, and this kind of delicate control is really tiring. Mr. Lan, how did you do it? If Nanami Kento didn't know Lan Shuyan, he would have thought that Lan Shuyan was the culprit. It's just my ability. I got the technique of the culprit. Normally, the operation of the technique is forward, but I directly used the reverse of the technique and added positive energy to restore their vitality. Although they will lose their memories and their lifespan will be only half of that of a normal person, it can at least allow them to live longer. Although Lan Shuyan has a strange habit, his values are still normal. I need to get some sleep. I'll leave those kids to you, senior. Lan Shuyan's eyelids became very heavy as he spoke. This kind of delicate control of positive energy consumed too much of his energy, not to mention that he was still in the state of an ordinary person, and the source of his cursed power was only the emotional positive energy that Mirror Flower and Water Moon could produce. Before falling asleep, Lan Shuyan felt his head resting on something soft again. Cool, soft, fragrant. This made Lan Shuyan fall asleep with a smile. Qingshan Shuiji hugged Lan Shuyan, and her blue eyes revealed doting, which really looked like a mother's gentle killing look. Nanami Kento adjusted his glasses. To be honest, he always felt that Qingshan Shuiji was not Lan Shuyan's Shikigami, but Lan Shuyan's mother. He could really see from the 2 days of getting along that Qingshan Shuiji really doted on Lan Shuyan. Is this really the legendary first-generation snow girl who could freeze a country when she ran away? You know, this guy appeared in Japan about 500 years ago, and the legend of the snow girl was slowly formed in Japan later. Miss Zuling, Lan is now in your care. Please take her back to the base to rest. I will take care of these children. Nanami Jonren bowed to Qingshan Shuiji. I will. Qingshan Shuiji picked up Lan Shuyan like a princess and left quickly. As for Nanami Kento, he took out his cell phone and called the tool man, Ichichiko. When Lan Shuyan woke up, it was already evening. He found himself lying on the sofa in the makeshift base, with his head resting on Qingshan Shuiji's thigh. This time, Lan Shuyan actually found that he was not shivering from the cold. This made Lan Shuyan fall into silence. So why did I freeze like a dog while holding Qingshan Shuiji to sleep before? However, Lan Shuyan still smiled as he looked at Qingshan Shuiji, who had her eyes closed and her head hanging. This time he completely understood that Qingshan Shuiji actually cared about him. Although he didn't know why, Qingshan Shuiji did care about him, and it was definitely not because she wanted to eat him. Are you awake? At this time, Qingshan Shuiji opened her eyes, still gentle and pleasant. Lan Shuyan got up and stretched lazily. He looked around. Nanami Kento and Itadori Yuji were not there. Let's go. Let's go out and find the cursed spirit. I'm going to start collecting cursed spirits. Lan Shuyan didn't forget his ideal. The Wu Wei transformation has been achieved, and the next step is to create the cursed spirit. Lan Shuyan's words made Qingshan Shuiji narrow her eyes and show a gentle smile, but her body did not move. But Lan Shuyan felt that the surroundings became very cold. This made Lan Shuyan shiver all over. What's wrong? Why did it suddenly become so cold again? Click. At this time, Nanami Kento pushed the door open. As soon as he came in, he shivered all over. Why is it so cold? Nanaha Kento looked at the air conditioner and found it was not on. So he looked at Qingshan Shuiji, who was sitting on the sofa with a gentle smile. Then he looked at Lan Shuyan. Mr. Lan, I asked Mr. Yidiji to investigate the identities of those children and sent them back. This time the mission has been accomplished. I'm going to let Yuji come back. It's time to go back. Nanami Kento told Lan Shuyan his thoughts. No, there is a problem now. Yuji Itadori went to find the child who was still alive in the cinema. He has cursed power. Lan Shuyan shook his head. Since we have done it, let's do it to the end. He has cursed power. Nanami Kento also had doubts, so when Lan Shuyan disappeared, he sent Yuji Itadori to find Junpei Yoshino, and he took action on his own. It should still be in time now. Miss Qingshan, do you want to go back to the realm of life, or come together? Lan Shuyan looked at Qingshan Shuiji. Qingshan Shuiji turned into white light and returned to the realm of life on the back of Lan Shuyan's right hand. Obviously, she didn't want to float outside. This made Lan Shuyan scratch his head. What happened? Why did he feel that Qingshan Shuiji seemed to be angry? Let's go, senior. Let's go to Yoshino Junpei's house. Lan Shuyan put his arm around Nanami Kento's shoulders. This made Nanami Kento's mouth twitch. This time, he still notified the tool man Ichichiko, but at this moment he was stuck in traffic. Let's go. There are shared bikes here. Nanaha Kento adjusted his glasses and calmly took out his phone to scan for shared bikes. Quote question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. Lan Shuyan never thought that one day he would ride a shared bike in Japan. By the way, are there shared bikes in Japan? Lan Shuyan looked around and saw a car dealership across the street. Senior, let's go. Let's buy a car. Lan Shuyan ran directly to the store opposite. This time it was Nanami Kento's turn to be puzzled. 10 minutes later, Nanami Kento sat in the driver's seat with a twitching mouth, while Lan Shuyan sat in the passenger seat. This car was Wuling Hongguang. The kind that you never know how many people will get out of his car. Go ahead. The attacking Wuling Hongguang. Lan Shuyan fastened his seatbelt and spoke directly. There is no other way. In Japan, Lan Shuyan does not have a driver's license. He can drive a yellow car, and he is very cool. But he really can't drive this kind of car. He can drive the coach crazy when he learns to drive, and he will beg him to leave by paying him 3 times the withdrawal fee. Lan Shuyan and Nanami Jonren were a little confused at this time. Because Lan Shuyan found himself in a traffic jam. How about, we go ride a shared bike? Lan Shuyan looked at Nanami Kento. This made Nanami Kento's mouth twitch again. So why did you buy this Wuling Hongguang? Helpless, Nanami Kento could only find a parking lot for the Wuling Hongguang, paid a fee of 5,000 yen, and then returned to the original place with Lan Shuyan. This time, Nanami Kento and Lan Shuyan both touched their chins and fell into deep thought. Because after 20 minutes, there was only one 2-seater bicycle left here. Hey, Nanami Kento was in front and Lan Shuyan was behind. The two of them rode the same bicycle to the outside of Yoshino Junpei's house. Yuji Itadori and Yoshino Junpei seemed to be away, which made Nanami Kento take Yuji Itadori directly into the house, because Nanami Kento clearly sensed the breath of curse inside. As soon as he entered, Yoshino Nagi was stunned. Who are you? Yoshino Nagi had drunk too much and fell asleep on the table. Yoshino Junpei went to see Yuji Itadori off. It was during this gap that Sukuna's finger was placed here, and it was because of this that Yoshino Nagi, a beautiful and cheerful single mother, lost her life. Yoshino Junpei also turned evil because of this. But Nanami Kento did not respond to her, but instantly pulled out the thallium knife on his back and slashed at Yoshino Nagi's back, and several cursed spirits were directly destroyed. And Lan Shuyan walked in front of Yoshino Nagi. Hello, we are friends of Yuji Itadori. This thing in your hand is very dangerous, so can you please give it to us? Lan Shuyan smiled. To be honest, although Lan Shuyan likes weird things like monster girls, but for mothers like Yoshino Nagi, she still likes them very much. This kind of liking is not the kind of dirty liking, but a feeling similar to respect. Although she drinks and smokes, she loves her children. Yuji Itadori-kun. Yoshino Nagi was stunned for a moment, then looked at what Lan Shuyan was wearing. Lan Shuyan's technical high school uniform was made according to Lan Shuyan's original dressing style, so it was generally recognizable. In addition, Lan Shuyan's collar also had spiral-shaped buttons, so he believed it. In fact, Lan Shuyan could call Yuji Itadori and ask him not to leave here first, but in this way the fingers would not appear, so Lan Shuyan decided to take a gamble. Otherwise Yuji Itadori and Yoshino Junpei would definitely not know that they were being set up again this time. Otherwise, he would not ride a bicycle with Nanami Kento. Of course, if Lan Shuyan had overslept and missed the time, that would be it. Lan Shuyan just followed his own ideas. If he wanted to save people, he would save them, and he would not feel guilty if he couldn't save them. Thank you for your cooperation. Lan Shuyan took Sukuna's finger. Then he took out his cell phone and called Yuji Itadori. Hey, Yuji, go back to Yoshino Junpei's house. Oh, yes, my senior and I are at Yoshino Junpei's house. After saying that, Lan Shuyan hung up the phone. Mr. Lan, wrap Sukuna's finger again first. Nanami Kento still held the knife and paid attention to the surroundings, and said to Lan Shuyan. But Lan Shuyan did not do so, but held Sukuna's finger thoughtfully. Senior, does Sukuna's finger have 1/20th of Sukuna's soul? Lan Shuyan asked Nanami Kento without even raising his head. Nanami Kento turned his head to look at Lan Shuyan, and then the corner of his mouth twitched. He seemed to know why Lan Shuyan asked this question. Hey, Mr. Lan, stop messing around. Even if it only has 1/20th of its soul, it is still very dangerous. Nanaha Kento warned Lan Shuyan seriously. Yoshino Nagi was listening at the side and was very confused. How about, I'll prepare some tea for you. Yoshino Nagi opened her mouth and finally said it. To be honest, she felt dizzy now. Was she still drunk? How come when she woke up from her drunkenness, there were 2 more people and a finger in the house, and she couldn't understand what they said? No, please just sit still. Nanami Kento crossed his arms and responded to Yoshino Nagi, but he was always sensing his surroundings. But Lan Shuyan was outrageous. He just held Sukuna's finger and studied it, looking at his left hand, then at Sukuna's finger, as if he was really struggling over whether to try it. In the end, Lan Shuyan decided not to try it. He is not a real person, and Sukuna has murderous intentions towards him. It would be bad if his consciousness entered the living realm inside the finger and his soul was chopped off by Sukuna. By the way, why is the soul chopped off when the consciousness enters Sukuna's living realm, but it can still be reflected in the real body? I can't figure it out. Half an hour later. Yoshino Junpei and Itadori Yuji came here. Lan, Nanami, why are you in Junpei's house? As soon as Yuji arrived here, he asked Lan Shuyan and Nanami Kento in confusion. Look at this, tiger stick. Lan Shuyan shook the Sukuna finger in his hand. Why do you have Sukuna's fingers? Yuji Itadori was very surprised. Yoshino Junpei and Yoshino Nagi looked at each other, not knowing what was going on at the moment. So, Lan Shuyan told Yuji Itadori what would happen here in the original book. This made Yuji Itadori's sunny face sink directly. And Yoshino Junpei's face changed drastically, because Lan Shuyan mentioned Masato. And Lan Shuyan also explained that Masato had been killed by him. In Yoshino Junpei's eyes, he and Masato got along well, and he felt that he was Masato's friend, but he didn't expect that he was being calculated by someone throughout the whole process, and even wanted to use his mother's death to sink into darkness. In fact, after he sent Yuji Itadori away, Yoshino Junpei reflected on himself and came to a conclusion. Although he believed that human nature was evil, he could not kill people because it would defile his soul. From here we can also see that Yoshino Junpei is actually more able to distinguish right from wrong. You can see the cursed spirits and summon the Shikigami, right? It's like a jellyfish. After all, the real person used the inaction transformation to transform your brain. Lan Shuyan looked at Yoshino Junpei. This made Yoshino Junpei tremble. This should be known only to him and the real person. Don't worry, I learned this from a real person. You've been bullied at school, and your forehead under your hair is covered with cigarette burns, right? Do you want revenge? I can help you. I was also bullied at school, but I killed them all. Lan Shuyan asked with a smile. This sudden remark stunned Yuji Itadori, Kento Nanami, Nagi Yoshino and Junpei Yoshino. Nagi Yoshino immediately stood up, took her son's hand, raised her head and lifted the hair that covered one eye of Junpei Yoshino. Outside Yoshinoya, Lan Shuyan felt bored, because he was thrown out by Nanami Kento. The reason was that Lan Shuyan taught a way of thinking that a child shouldn't have. If you can't stand the bullying anymore, you can fight back. It is because you endure it silently that the other party thinks you are weak and can be bullied. Well, but some people have different backgrounds. Rebellion may also cause trouble to the family, but if you are alone like me. If the teacher doesn't care, the school doesn't care, the other party's elders don't educate you, and you don't have any background, then you should resist once. 1 for 1 doesn't lose, 1 for 2 makes a small profit, 1 for 4 makes a big profit, and 1 for 4 makes a huge profit. But I admit that my reaction was too extreme, so I paid for it myself. Well, although it happened in the last life. Lan Shuyan sat on the steps outside Yoshinoya, still holding Sukuna's fingers in his hand and thinking, note, this is for the sake of fiction, don't take it seriously. Now the country has established relevant laws, and students who are bullied can collect video evidence themselves and then submit it to the relevant departments. He is still relatively happy in this life. Come to think of it, I have been holding Sukuna's finger for so long, why haven't the cursed spirits come to me? Lan Shuyan adjusted his glasses and looked around, muttering to himself. Logically speaking, a cursed object of Sukuna's level should attract curses very quickly, just like when they just arrived and many curses appeared behind Yoshino Nagi. Do you want me to swallow one and try it too? Lan Shuyan wanted to find the bugs in this world again. In his opinion, the settings of this world are full of bugs anyway. No way. Qingshan Shuiji suddenly appeared, lying behind Lan Shuyan, and pinched the corner of Lan Shuyan's mouth. Why does this human want to try everything? Sukuna's fingers are extremely poisonous to ordinary humans, and even to cursed spirits, so cursed spirits just want to use Sukuna's fingers to enhance their own cursed power, rather than swallowing them directly like that little devil named Itadori Yuji. Qingshan Shuiji's fingers kept pulling at the corners of Lan Shuyan's mouth. I know, stop it, it hurts. Lan Shuyan pulled Qingshan Shuiji's hands apart. He was just talking, he knew that Sukuna's fingers were poisonous. I was actually thinking, can I carry Sukuna's finger with me, and then always designate Sukuna's finger as the copy object of mirror flower? But my mirror flower didn't seem to sense the hostility in Sukuna's fingers. Is it because the fingers only have souls, not consciousness? Lan Shuyan turned his head and asked Qingshan Shuiji, who was lying behind him. After all, Qingshan Shuiji should be more familiar with his abilities than Gojo Satoru. Sukuna's fingers have split souls. To be precise, the soul should carry consciousness, but because Sukuna's fingers are already on Yuji Itadori, only the soul in Yuji Itadori's body is conscious, the others are just separate souls. Only when Yuji Itadori dies and the other fingers are swallowed by others will a new consciousness be born again, which means that Sukuna's consciousness can only coexist with one. Sukuna can only sense the outside situation by connecting to the Sukuna fingers outside, but the range is not very wide. In other words, Sukuna will know what you are saying now. Qingshan Shuiji explained to Lan Shuyan. I know this. I'm just curious if I can be a mirror flower object. What a pity, only the soul is there. Etc. Miss Qingshan, you said this finger is unconscious now, right? Lan Shuyan suddenly grinned. He was so happy. This made Qingshan Shuiji tilt her head, and then raised her hand to support her forehead. This guy must have thought of something again. I just got the Wu-Wei transformation and I always feel uncomfortable if I don't use it. Lan Shuyan really can't wait to use the Wu-Wei transformation. Don't. Sukuna's soul cannot be touched. Its attack will cause great harm to your soul. Qingshan Shuiji grabbed Lan Shuyan's cheek again. She was really helpless with Lan Shuyan. Well, that's right. Just now, Nanami-san also said that Sukuna's soul is very dangerous. Lan Shuyan stood up because someone came out from behind him. It was Yuji Itadori, Nanami Kento, and Yoshino mother and son. So what? How do they solve it? Lan Shuyan looked at Nanami Jonran. Yoshino Nagi and Yoshino Junpei will accept the protection of the Jujutsu High School. After all, Yoshino Junpei has a Shikigami. Although Nanami Kento knew that the creator was dead, he must have had helpers, otherwise it would not explain why Sukuna's finger appeared here. So for the safety of Yoshino Junpei and Yoshino Nagi, they still had to take over and protect them. Yoshino Junpei won't join Jujutsu High School. Lan Shuyan looked at Yoshino Junpei. No, his mother just wants him to be safe. After thinking about it, Yoshino Junpei also obeyed his mother's expectations. Nanaha Kento adjusted his glasses and responded to Lan Shuyan. This made Lan Shuyan nod his head. Anyway, he didn't care. So what about those people who bully you? Yoshino. I personally think, Lan Shuyan did not forget to let Yoshino Junpei talk about the bullying, but Nanami Kento covered his mouth with his hand, held him under his armpit and was about to leave. That Thank you for saving my mother. Just when Lan Shuyan was about to be taken away, Yoshino Junpei suddenly bowed to Lan Shuyan. After all, Yoshino Junpei already knew that Sukuna's finger would attract cursed spirits. If Nanami Kento and Lan Shuyan hadn't appeared, then his mother would definitely be in trouble. So he felt that this kind of thanks was very necessary. When Nanami Kento heard Yoshino Junpei thanking Lan Shuyan, he loosened his hand and let Lan Shuyan go. No need to thank me, I'm just passing by. After all, I have obtained the technique of the culprit, so I should solve the problems caused by him. Compared to this, I tell you, even if you have to leave, I think you should, well. Lan Shuyan's mouth was covered by Nanami Kento again, and then he was clamped again. Nanami Kento's mouth twitched violently. Why is this person so obsessed with the topic of bullying? Lan Jun, I will beat them up when I go to school tomorrow to submit my application for withdrawal. Yoshino Junpei smiled at Lan Shuyan, a very sunny smile. Nanami Kento loosened his hand that was covering Lan Shuyan's mouth again, but was ready to cover it again at any time. As expected, Nanami Kento was really a gentle and reliable adult. This made Lan Shuyan roll his eyes. What's the point of beating him? It's just a flesh wound. But forget it, just resist. I can modify your brain so that you can no longer see the cursed spirits, and I can also take your Shikigami away, do you want it? Lan Shuyan finally asked Yoshino Junpei. Lan Shuyan was willing to help Yoshino Junpei in many ways. But more likely it was because he had also suffered bullying. Later, Yoshino Junpei still accepted Lan Shuyan's transformation, and the Shikigami also became Lan Shuyan's. It was tamed by Lan Shuyan through Nanami Kento's teachings. Yatsuki. It's the jellyfish with poisonous tentacles. And everything that follows will be arranged by the follow-up personnel. The Yoshino family will be sent to the academy protected by the barrier of the Jujutsu High School to study, and they will also live there. In the Wuling Hongguang, Nanami Kento is driving. Itadori Yuji fell asleep directly in the back seat. As for Lan Shuyan, he was teasing the translucent glowing jellyfish Shikigami. It is soft, and probably because it was just formed recently, it seems that its IQ is not high, and I don't know if it is because of the change of owner, its body has turned blue. Senior, if I give Sukuna's finger to Yozuki, will it become stronger? Lan Shuyan asked Nanami Kento. This made Nanami Kento glance at Lan Shuyan. You don't have the right to use the special spell. And Sukuna's finger was originally meant to be fed to Itadori-san. Nanami Kento responded to Lan Shuyan. Only Gojo Satoru has the power to decide how to use this finger. And Nanami Kento is also worried that there will be unnecessary disadvantages if he feeds it to Itadori Yuji. Because now Itadori Yuji has swallowed 2 of Sukuna's fingers, whether to let him swallow more or not, it's up to Gojo Satoru to decide. Moses, prison master. Ah, it's me. Solved. I have a Sukuna finger here now. Oh yes, so I want to ask if I can use this finger, and don't give it to Yuji first. What made Nanami Kento's mouth twitch was that Lan Shuyan took out his cell phone and called Gojo Satoru. The key point was that he actually got through. And what about Nanami Kento himself? He just made N calls, but Gojo Satoru didn't answer. Okay, thank you, master. Lan Shuyan hung up the phone. Then he took out his finger and handed it to Diu, who was floating in front of him. But Diu seemed to know that this was a good thing and did not take Sukuna's finger from Lan Shuyan. Before you use it, let me change your soul first. Lan Shuyan grinned, smiling happily, and directly pressed his palm on the bulging body of Dianyu. The strong desire to curse the spirit mother was once again transformed into positive energy. Ritual reversal, passive transformation. There is no other way. Normally, the ritual that transforms a person's soul is forward reversal, which is the passive transformation, normally used by real people, but Lan Shuyan's is positive energy, so he can only reverse the ritual. This reversal will not only change the soul, but also leave the positive energy in Dianyu's soul. In Lan Shuyan's opinion, Dianyu is a female cursed spirit. Why are you so sure? Observation of the appearance of the creature. No. Lan Shuyan says it is, and it is. Soon. As Lan Shuyan injected positive energy into the passive transformation ritual, Dianyu's body. It was also changing. Its jellyfish-like body was shrinking. Then, with a "Bew" sound, a translucent upper body emerged from the jellyfish skull, and the jellyfish tentacles below were shaking. How to say it? There was an upper body on the jellyfish skull, and the jellyfish body tentacles below, and the skin was light blue. But Lan Shuyan frowned. Because Dianyu looked too young now, excluding the jellyfish skull and the translucent body, she looked like a little girl of about 10 years old. The key was her face, which was so innocent that people could not have any malice. See the short comment on Yojuki's character design here, the author is in the picture above. Originally, Lan Shuyan wanted to have the appearance of an older sister. But Yojuki can only accept so much positive energy, and her soul can only accept so much. After all, Lan Shuyan is not achieving multiple souls, because that would destroy Yojuki's soul. Yojuki tilted her head, and she didn't seem to know why her body had changed. But she was also very interested in the Sukuna fingers that Lan Shuyan was pinching. She floated directly to Lan Shuyan's thigh and sat down, looking at Lan Shuyan with her head held high in Lan Shuyan's arms. After her soul was changed by Lan Shuyan, her movements seemed to be very human-like. Lan Shuyan smiled and directly handed her the Sukuna fingers. This made Yojuki's tentacles at the same position as her legs reach out and wrap around. You have to use your hands. Lan Shuyan picked up Yatsuki's blue, slightly transparent, pale arms and placed Sukuna's fingers on her palms. Yatsuki tried hard to control her palms and held Sukuna's fingers with her fingers. Her movements were very clumsy. Just like a newborn baby is adapting to her body. Yatsuki grinned, very innocently, and then put Sukuna's fingers into her head that seemed to be topped with jelly. Then Lan Shuyan, who was wearing glasses, discovered that Yatsuki, whose cursed power was originally quite good, began to surge. As expected, this Shikigami is also very good. Originally, she should have the strength of a second-level cursed spirit, but now after obtaining Sukuna's finger, her cursed power has reached the strength of a first-level cursed spirit. If she can develop her own technique, she should be able to become a quasi-special level 1. Nanaha Kento didn't look at Lan Shuyan, he was completely sensing the power of Yatsuki's curse. But that's it, he was really speechless. Lan Shuyan really turned Yatsuki into a cursed spirit girl. And she's still so young. He thought Lan Shuyan's habit was outrageous, but he really didn't expect him to be so outrageous. Yojuki seemed to want to speak, but the sound she made was a bubbly, tender childish voice. Her jellyfish tentacles wrapped around Lan Shuyan's body, and her whole body nestled in Lan Shuyan's arms, leaning against him obediently with squinted eyes. Lan Shuyan fell into deep self-doubt. Although I, Lan Shuyan, know that my own hobbies are strange, but at such a young age, I, Lan Shuyan, really can't do it. After returning to the residence that Gojo Satoru gave to Itadori Yuji, Nanami Kento directly threw Itadori Yuji there, and then Nanami Kento drove a Wuling Hongguang to send Lan Shuyan back to the Jujutsu High School. Lan Shuyan got out of the car. Keys. Nanami Janran threw the Wuling Hongguang car keys to Lan Shuyan. But Lan Shuyan slapped them back with one hand. For you. It's worthless anyway. Lan Shuyan yawned, holding Yatsuki who was wrapped around him with tentacles and walked back to his dormitory. Nanami Kento adjusted his glasses and said nothing more. I don't want it. Working part-time is shit, but I need shit to live. Oh, that's right. Don't reveal the Wu-Wei transformation technique to anyone, just tell Gojo-sensei. Help me keep the matter of dealing with the culprit a secret. Just as Nanami Kento was about to get in the car, Lan Shuyan turned around and said, "Got it." Nanami Kento nodded. He was a reliable middle-aged man and would not talk nonsense about what he promised. He returned to his dormitory and put Yatsuki on his bed. Yatsuki could float, and her tentacles could become legs, but it seemed that she didn't need them at all. She crawled around like a curious baby. Lan Shuyan looked at her, his eyes attracted by the outline of her legs that were vaguely visible in the translucent jelly. How did you say that? Yatsuki's outer clothing was formed by her flesh and blood. This made Lan Shuyan raise his palm and then put up his middle finger. Then Lan Shuyan looked at the area between Yatsuki's legs again. Then he continued to look at his middle finger. Lan Shuyan thought about it. Should I try it? But that innocent look really made him a little hesitant. He is a gentleman. The next day, Lan Shuyan stood up. He looked at the jellyfish tentacles wrapped around him, and then at Dianyu who was looking at him with her eyes open and a childlike expression. Qingxuan Shuiji was standing aside, still preparing toiletries for her. As soon as she saw Qingxuan Shuiji, Dianyu let go of the tentacles wrapped around Lan Shuyan and floated directly towards Qingxuan Shuiji, which made Qingxuan Shuiji put down the things in her hands and hug Dianyu in her arms. Then she turned around and took Dianyu out. This made Lan Shuyan open his mouth, and finally it turned silent. Although his hobby is very strange, he really wouldn't do anything weird to Dianyu. Lan Shuyan sighed and lowered his head, looking at his middle finger. The middle finger was red and swollen, and there were some black spots. How could I, a serious person like me, do something like that? Hey, I really am. How come there are thorns out of nowhere, and they are poisonous ones? Fortunately, it was only my finger that was hit. Fortunately, he was just curious and used his finger. Lan Shuyan wanted to cry but had no tears. He would have to find Jiru Nitro later. He didn't know how to detoxify, and the reversal technique was useless for poison. Depressed. Why did Diu prick out when she felt uncomfortable inside? Alas, Big Brother has nowhere to go. After washing up, Lan Shuyan directly heated up the ice rice made by Qingxuan Shuiji. After eating 3 bowls with tears in his eyes, he went directly to find Jiru Nitro. Qingxuan Shuiji followed with Diu in his arms. This little guy seemed to like Qingxuan Shuiji very much. Last night, Lan Shuyan couldn't help teasing Diu and playing with her, and was stung by the thorns that came out of her. Fortunately, he used his hand instead of his good brother. Then Diu looked at him with tears in her eyes. It is estimated that Diu herself knew that she had hurt her master and almost went berserk. Good. When Qingxuan Shuiji came out, she threw Lan Shuyan aside and comforted Diu. From Qingxuan Shuiji, we can know that Diu is a newly formed child. Everything about her is like a child, and she needs to slowly grow into a mature cursed spirit. This kind of child does not refer to appearance, but to the inner self. Just like real people and tortoises, they need to continue to grow. And this kind of growth refers to the mastery of their own abilities. Jiali Glass was shocked by Lan Shuyan's arrival. Then she was even more shocked to see Lan Shuyan's middle finger swollen as big as a banana. How did you get hurt? Jiru Nitro looked at Lan Shuyan's fingers. If you look closely, you can see densely packed small wounds. If you count them roughly, there should be thousands of them. Ah, Lan Shuyan adjusted his glasses with his other hand. How should he answer this? Jiali Glass looked at Lan Shuyan, then looked at Qingxuan Shuiji and Diu. Although she didn't know when Lan Shuyan had an extra Shikigami, she could feel that Diu's cursed power was similar to the cursed poison left in Lan Shuyan's fingers. But Shikigami generally won't hurt their masters. Forget it. Jiali Glass didn't ask any more questions, and started to help Lan Shuyan with his treatment. Not long after, Lan Shuyan said goodbye to Jiali Glass. There was nothing to do today, so Lan Shuyan just found a quiet place in the high school and lay down on the lawn casually. Qingxuan Shuiji sat on the lawn, and Lan Shuyan's head was resting on it, while Diu was already floating around on the lawn happily or chasing butterflies with her tentacles. Qingxuan, can you tell me why you lost your composure when a real person held my cheek? In fact, I feel that you are not too obsessed with making me fall in love with you, nor do you really want to eat me. In fact, Lan Shuyan cares about this matter. Qingxuan Shuiji paused as she stroked his head, and then continued to stroke. You just need to know that I will eat you. Qingxuan Shuiji's voice was gentle and doting. She looked at Dianyu, who was having fun again, with a gentle smile on her lips. There, in her eyes, she seemed to see a young man in gorgeous clothes running around. Lan Shuyan didn't ask again. After all, everyone has his own secrets, just like when Qingxuan Shuiji asked him why he knew a lot of knowledge without any contact with the world of spells before, he just answered vaguely. He just needed to know that Qingxuan Shuiji would not hurt him. But at this moment, Dianyu suddenly came over, and its tentacles directly wrapped around Lan Shuyan's body, shrinking its small body in Lan Shuyan's arms and trembling. This made Lan Shuyan stand up and pat her back gently. Tight. Then Lan Shuyan's eyes revealed a coldness, because he sensed hostility. He looked at a place not far ahead. Because there was a skinny old man in a white robe looking at him. Li Yanxi Joshin, the principal of Kyoto Technical High School. Why is this old guy here? If Lan Shuyan remembered correctly, this old guy listened to the high-level spellcasters. And at this moment, Lan Shuyan felt hostility. Because the mirror flower can be triggered, and there are many of them. It's just that Li Yanxi is the only one who appeared in his field of vision within the range of the mirror flower. In the last juvenile detention center incident, Lan Shuyan has entered the sight of the high-level spellcasters, but Lan Shuyan doesn't know why Li Yanxi Joshin came. Although my country teaches us to respect the elderly and love the young. But it should be ignored in the world of curses, right? Lan Shuyan directly transferred the Yatsuki in his arms to Qingshan Shuiji's arms. Because he was always bullied in his previous life, Lan Shuyan has decided that he will never suffer any loss, will not endure, and will do whatever he wants in this life. So, Lan Shuyan will now avenge the hatred that was calculated last time. Killing is not necessary, because Lan Shuyan knows how capable he is. Unless he has the strength of Sukuna or Gojo Satoru. Lan Shuyan raised his right hand, and the handle of the soul release sword appeared and was held in his palm. Jinghua immediately locked onto Layan Temple. Because among the hostile forces here, Layan Temple has the most cursed power. As Lan Shuyan approached, the people in the dark came out. They were students from Kyoto High School. Jikinmaru, Miwa Kasumi, Kamo Kenki, Zenin Mai, Nishimiya Momo. This made Lan Shuyan stop. Except for an Utahime and Tudo Aoi, everyone else was there. Lan Shuyan carried the soul release sword on his shoulder with one hand and pinched his chin with the other hand. Little devil, talk. Li Yanxi Joshin dropped the cane in his hand to the ground. Sure, but let me chop you first. Lan Shuyan grinned, smiling harmlessly. He didn't dare to kill anyone, because suicide and self-confidence were two different things. Chopping Li Yanxi Joshin with a knife would at most result in punishment, and he might be fine. But killing Li Yanxi Joshin would mean he would be an enemy of the entire world of sorcery. Then let's not talk about it. Li Yanxi Joshin's cloudy eyes suddenly became sharp, but there was no table to overturn for him. Brother Crow failed to go online. Hee. Yes, so what? Lan Shuyan grinned. To be honest, he was not afraid of this group of people coming together. A similar restraint of heaven and tyrant could easily solve them. I think you can listen to it. This is the result of the discussion of the high-level magicians. It can also be said to be an order. I think you don't want to be an enemy of the entire magic world, right? Li Yanxi Joshin did not get angry, but continued to speak. This made Lan Shuyan interested. This interest made him want to know what the high-level magicians wanted to say to him. You will be transferred from Tokyo Technical High School to Kyoto Technical High School. All the resources of Kyoto Polytechnic are open to you, and we will provide you with a guaranteed salary of 300 million yen every year. The price you need to pay is to obey the orders of the high-level spellcasters. Your ability can be compared with Gojo Satoru, and we will make you the other strongest. Legenji Yoshinobu spoke slowly, his voice low. Fundamentally speaking, many people in the high-level spellcasting hope that Gojo Satoru will die, even though he is the current strongest. Whether it is the 6 eyes and the unlimited technique, or Gojo Satoru's contemptuous attitude towards the high-level spellcasting, the high-level spellcasting feels dissatisfied. And they want Lan Shuyan to compete with Gojo Satoru, because Lan Shuyan's ability can break Gojo Satoru's infinity. At the very least, Gojo Satoru needs to restrain his contempt for the high-level spellcasting. Lan Shuyan was stunned for a moment. Then he took out his mobile phone, opened his Swiss bank app directly, and showed the balance to Legenji Yoshinobu and the others. Well, it seems you didn't check my parents carefully. I have more than $1 billion in pocket money. How do you think I'm short of 300 million yen? Lan Shuyan took back his phone and put it back in his pocket. I admit that I'm very capable, but you want to use me and Gojo-sensei to check and balance you. That's wishful thinking. Although I don't really care about the world of sorcery, in my opinion, Gojo-sensei should be more reliable than those high-ranking sorcerers. And I hate being tricked too. Juvenile detention once, this time the second time. What shocked everyone was that this time Lan Shuyan's voice came from behind them. They all turned around and saw Lan Shuyan holding the soul release knife on Layan Temple Joshin's neck. How is it possible? Why is it so fast? Murawa Kasumi has already prepared for the sword drawing and slashing posture. Jigenmaru has also released the blade. Kamo Kenji has also taken out the blood plasma. Zenin Shine has drawn his gun. Nishimiya Dao, riding the witch's broom. But before they can move, a cold wind blows by. Qingshan Shuiji has changed into a snow girl in a kimono, covering her mouth with her sleeves, and her blue eyes that are usually closed half open to look at Jigenmaru and others. In an instant, all of them fell into an ice cave. Although Qingshan Shuiji's strength has declined after coming out of the seal, she is still a special grade, and the momentum she casually reveals is enough to scare them. As for Yajutsu, at this time, she was hiding behind Qingshan Shuiji, and the tentacles that exploded on her body seemed to be pretending to be powerful. She was grinning at Jigenmaru and others, fierce and cute. Miss Qingshan, actually, I can do it myself. Lan Shuyan grinned. He really didn't expect Qingshan Shuiji to come. Ah, what do I know? But I am afraid that you will kill them, and then you will be in trouble. That's right. Qingshan Shuiji is not helping Lan Shuyan, but is really afraid that these people will take action. If Lan Shuyan accidentally kills one or two of them, there will be some trouble. The high-level Japanese sorcery has a trump card. Otherwise, they would not dare to plot against Yuji Itadori and others last time. Although he was slaughtered by Gojo Gatsuko, who came out of the seal in the later part of the comics, the author still did not explain what trump card the high-level sorcery had in the end. Quote, quote. Lan Shuyan's mouth twitched. Am I so unreliable in your eyes? But Lan Shuyan didn't have much confidence. After all, Lan Shuyan himself knew his personality. He was indeed unreliable in doing some things. Do you dare? It was at this time that Lian Sijia Shen spoke lightly. Even with a knife on his neck, he remained very calm. Lan Shuyan took back the knife, and Lian Sijia Shen glanced at Lan Shuyan lightly. He really didn't believe that Lan Shuyan dared to cut him. But the next second, Lian Sijia Shen felt a sharp pain in his back. Because Lan Shuyan cut him directly with a knife. Go back and tell your owners, don't think they can take advantage of me just because they are high and mighty. I will charge you the interest for the 2 times they took advantage of me. If you make me angry, I believe money makes the world go round. I believe that there are still many curse masters in this world who have no awe of you. When the time comes, I will give each of you a reward of 100 million for your head, and see if you can still act so high and mighty. I don't lack money. Lan Shuyan, holding the soul release knife, passed Lian Temple Joshin and ignored Jijuan and others. He yawned and took out his mobile phone. I wonder if the author of The Snow Woman and the Cursed Ring has published anything new. Let's check. If there is, I have to buy it. Lan Shuyan muttered to himself. This made Qingshan Shuiji, who followed behind Lan Shuyan, ignore Lian Temple Joshin and others, and twitched his eyes. Principal Lianji. Kamo Kenji directly collected the blood bag and ran over to help Lianji Joshin check the wound. To be honest, as students of Kyoto High School, they would definitely be angry if the principal was chopped in front of them. This has nothing to do with respect, but a stance. But they are afraid, let alone Lan Shuyan, they already felt the speed just now was tricky. What's more, there are 2 Shikigami beside Lan Shuyan. 1 special grade, and 1 first grade. Little devil. Liansi Joshin's expression was ferocious, and his eyes were cold. He threw away his crutches, and cursed power emerged from his body, and the cursed power was concentrated in his hands. After all, he didn't have his guitar with him. Lan, you really chopped it off. At this moment, Gojo Satoru's unruly voice sounded. He walked to Lan Shuyan's side. Hee. Although I know that the principal of Lian Temple is following orders from his superiors and this is a bit of a vent of anger, I was very unhappy about being tricked last time. How dare you threaten me today? How about that, master? Let's just go kill the high-ranking sorcerer. Lan Shuyan grinned at Gojo Satoru. To be honest, Lan Shuyan really didn't know how strong the high-ranking sorcerer was. Well, although that is not bad, it is not okay. After all, garbage has its uses. I was just venting my anger when I told you that last time. Don't look at me like that, I still follow the rules. Gojo Satoru said, turning his head towards Rakuganji Yoshinobu. Then Gojo Satoru stretched out his hand to open his black eye bags, revealing his blue and dazzling 6 eyes. So, are you going to do it? Grandpa. Gojo Satoru's tone changed and became very cold. Chapter 51. It's true that Gojo Satoru is careless. It's also true that he's good at talking. But at least, he really wants to be a good teacher. And now he is indeed the strongest. He actually saw what happened here just now, because he came to find Lan Shuyan, but he didn't show up. He wanted to see what Lianji Joshin was going to do, and also to see how Lan Shuyan would deal with Lianji Joshin. Go back. Lianji Joshin turned around directly. The knife wound on his back seemed to reflect his incompetence, and his shaking body represented his anger. Fight. Lianji Joshin dared to fight Lan Shuyan. After all, he did not live so long in vain. But fight with Gojo Satoru. Lianji Joshin was not a conceited person. He knew that he could not win, and he might not even be able to hurt Gojo Satoru. After Lianji Joshin and the others left, Gojo Satoru put his eye bags back on. Then he resumed his playful smile and hooked his arm around Lan Shuyan's shoulder. To be honest, I thought you weren't going to chop him, but just wanted to scare him. Gojo Satoru was really surprised. Was this what Wagwo meant by, a newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger? But Gojo Satoru let go of Lan Shuyan's shoulders, then turned to Lan Shuyan and his tone became very serious again. Lan, I know you are very confident now. But you have to understand that the high-ranking members of the sorcery school have the guts to challenge me because they have their own style of doing things and they know that I will follow the rules. But you are different. Compared to ordinary people, the sorcerer is very powerful. Understand? Well, but you don't have to worry, because I'm here. They sent people to China, but I went to warn them. But the reward you just offered was really domineering. You are indeed a rich man. Gojo Satoru became playful again. But Lan Shuyan understood the meaning of Gojo Satoru's words. Although the high-level curse masters exist to expel cursed spirits, they will not feel guilty about dealing with ordinary people. Lan Shuyan has a family. He knew that he was indeed impulsive just now. Those guys are high above and used to deciding people's life and death at will. Lan Shuyan's eyes revealed murderous intent. Thank you for your reminder, teacher. This is the first time that Lan Shuyan used a respectful title. At least Gojo Satoru really loves him. Don't worry, Teacher Yidao will help you solve it and will not use any shameful means. I will go to the high-ranking sorcerers again later, and I will sit down and let them stand to talk properly. Gojo Satoru grinned. This sentence is very domineering. Gojo Satoru sat down and let the high-ranking sorcerers stand. Teacher, are you here to see me? Or, Lan Shuyan didn't say anything more, but asked Gojo Satoru's purpose of coming here. He remembered that Gojo Satoru helped him. I heard from Nanami that you solved the perpetrator of the incident and obtained the enemy's technique. Gojo Satoru came back this morning, but last night Nanami Kento drove home after sending Lan Shuyan back. On the way, he called Nanami Kento to learn about Lan Shuyan and Itadori Yuji's performance. Yes, well, I thought, you must be wondering why I can obtain the enemy's spells in one go, right? After all, I learned a lot about my abilities from the spell library. I just bound him. Lan Shuyan knew what Gojo Satoru wanted to ask, so he answered first. 100% success. Gojo Satoru pinched his chin, his mouth curled up. Yes, 100% success. Lan Shuyan nodded. He felt that Gojo Satoru seemed to be thinking of something bad. Well, that's good. Gojo Satoru nodded in satisfaction. But Lan Shuyan's face was full of question marks. It seems that Miss Qingshan has taught you a lot. Gojo Satoru looked at Qingshan Shuiji again. Qingshan Shuiji covered her mouth with her sleeves, and glanced at Gojo Satoru with her eyes under her long eyelashes, full of disdain. I didn't teach him anything, his own wonderful thoughts made me feel incredible. You should educate him and stop using restraints indiscriminately. And I know what you are thinking. Lan's ability did not inherit the memory of the previous owner. He has used Mirror Flower and Water Moon more severely than the previous two owners. Qingzhan Shuiji sighed as she spoke. Obviously, she was really helpless about Lan Shuyan's abuse of restraints. The key point was that he could use the price of shortening 1 centimeter as a specified price. This operation was really outrageous. Oh, Gojo Satoru was surprised, because he thought that the way Lan Shuyan was bound was taught to him by Qingshan Shuiji. After all, Gojo Satoru guessed that Lan Shuyan inherited the memories of the previous two owners. But now Qingshan Shuiji actually denied it. Well, after all, I am also a novelist, and I have a good imagination. Lan Shuyan adjusted his glasses on the tip of his nose. He was very proud of this. Well, that's right, a sorcerer does need imagination. Gojo Satoru said, and then looked at Yatsuki who was hiding behind Qingshan Shueiji. She saw Gojo Satoru looking at her, and quickly retracted her head. This little guy is the Shikigami called Yoshino Junpei. Was he transformed by your ability? Nanaha Kento gave Gojo Satoru a very detailed report. It also explained that Lan Shuyan turned those cyborg children who should have died back to human form. This ability is still very good. Yes, very cute, right? Lan Shuyan went straight over and picked up Du. Du's tentacle swung and wrapped around Lan Shuyan's waist. She buried her head in Lan Shuyan's arms, and her whole body was trembling. How should I put it? Compared to other cursed spirits, it is indeed better looking. But teacher, I really can't resonate with you. Compared to this, you know about the Kyoto Sisters exchange meeting. It will start tomorrow, and I will let Yuhito go back. Although Yuhito has become stronger after recent training, the old man just now probably won't let it go, so please take good care of Yuhito. As long as his life is not in danger, you don't need to help him. Gojo Satoru stood up and said to Lan Shuyan. Because Lan Shuyan has that ability. Okay, I will. Lan Shuyan did not refuse. After all, he knew that Gojo Satoru was a good teacher, and he treated all of his students the same. And Gojo Satoru was standing by his side very domineeringly. So Lan Shuyan was willing to agree. That's good. I will be leaving Jujutsu High School soon. I'll leave Kei, Yujin, and Nobara in your care. Gojo Satoru said and turned around and left. This made Lan Shuyan stunned for a moment. Then he smiled. Because of the butterfly effect caused by his intervention, Gojo Satoru knew about the existence of Geto Suguru in advance, so he should want to investigate. Well, although I only talked about the appearance and clothes, Gojo Satoru immediately thought of Geto Suguru. Lan Shuyan muttered to himself. Then he looked down at Yatsuki. Yatsuki, can you please stop moving your tentacles? You are poisonous, and she is so cold. It's uncomfortable. I want to cry. It was really that Lan Shuyan was upset that he couldn't get in. In fact, Lan Shuyan himself understood that although he could change the soul, the positive energy still changed Yojuki's body, causing it to undergo a physical change. This was something he couldn't control. The next day, all the people in Kyoto had gathered. Lan Shuyan also came with Fushiguro Megumi, and Kugasaki Nobara. Zenin Maki, Panda, and Inagami Satoru also came. Zenin Maki glanced at Lan Shuyan, then adjusted her glasses on the bridge of her nose. Even though she was a tomboy, she still felt a bit upset about what happened last time. As for the opposite side, Tudo Aoi had been staring at Lan Shuyan. He had a healthy smile on his lips, and was obviously very excited. The strong will be excited about the strong. Just like men have to fight Sukuna. Hey, is everyone here? At this time, Gojo Satoru was pushing a cart with a metal box on it. Yuji Itadori must be inside. But to Gojo Satoru's surprise, Gojo Satoru did not bring any figurines to the people here, but stopped directly at the Tokyo High School students. Everyone, I brought you a surprise. As soon as Gojo Satoru finished speaking, the iron box was pushed open. Then Yuji Itadori stood up straight. The next second, Yuji Itadori flew out. That's right, he flew out. At this moment, Megumi Fushiguro and Nobara Kugasaki both raised their legs. They were gritting their teeth. Ah, a room. At this moment, Yuji Itadori was holding a black frame in front of his face. He was kneeling very obediently. Fushiguro Megumi and Kugasaki Nobara, who were sitting opposite Yuji Itadori's store, crossed their arms and stared at Yuji Itadori with their teeth bared. Hello, isn't Itadori Yuji dead? Zenin Maki leaned against the wall with her arms folded, looking at Lan Shuyan who was sitting next to her. I just came back to life. Lan Shuyan responded. Everyone, Gojo-sensei went out for something, and he asked me to protect Yuji-san. Fushiguro, Kugasaki, remember what I said. The people above want to kill Yuji. Yuji is still alive, so the other party must have more moves. This time I will definitely do it again. I said this just to say that Yuji is now a thorn in the eyes of the high-ranking officials of the Jujutsu. As soon as Lan Shuyan's voice fell, Fushiguro Megumi and Kugasaki Nobara sighed. Then they looked at Lan Shuyan with a firm look in their eyes. Well, we are from Tokyo Jujutsu High School, how can the juniors be bullied by others? That's right, Salmon, Zen and Maki and the other two also responded. Ah, that's good, but I hope you guys can handle the others, I'll protect Yuji. Lan Shuyan stood up. This time, Geto Suguru also intervened. Lan Shuyan was very interested in the cursed spirits that Yoshinobu Rakuganji had placed there. From the appearance of the anime, it seemed to be a snake-like cursed spirit. The last time Gojo Satoru caught the snake lady, he beat her up, which made him feel very sorry. Monster lady. Snake lady is a very good representative. Yuji-san, only when you are strong can you protect yourself and not endanger the people around you. So work hard to become stronger. So powerful that they can't decide your life or death. As powerful as the teacher. Lan Shuyan took away the black frame that Yuji was still holding, and pulled him up from his kneeling position. To be honest, Lan Shuyan really didn't care about the plot. But Gojo Satoru's words woke him up. He still had parents and family. The high-level curse masters had dirty hearts. So Lan Shuyan is now thinking about how to kill them. His ability is limited, and Gojo Satoru will abide by the rules. He will kill the high-level curse masters later only because Gojo Satoru doesn't want them to mess around when he is dealing with Sukuna, who is driving the Fushiguro-kei. So Lan Shuyan has to do it himself, and if he does it, he has to do it thoroughly. Okay, I understand. Yuji Itadori responded to Lan Shuyan's words seriously. His attitude was very firm and his smile was very sunny. Lan Shuyan sighed. As expected, he still felt that he was incompatible with normal people. Such a sunny smile almost blinded him. Help me kill the high-ranking curse master when the time comes. Lan Shuyan patted Yuji Itadori's shoulder and continued. This made Yuji Itadori, who was smiling brightly, stunned. They sent the principal of Tokyo to win me over yesterday, intending to train me to be as strong as Gojo-sensei and to balance him. I guess they were also worried that I would refuse, so the high-level jujutsu officials sent people to China, probably to threaten me with my family. But the teacher found out and helped me solve it, and then warned them. Lan Shuyan grinned and looked at Yuji Itadori. Okay. Yuji Itadori put away his smile and nodded solemnly. Well, I don't like them either, so count me in when the time comes. Zenin Maki also spoke at this time. After all, in the comics, after her sister was killed by her father, she used the technique to create a replica of the soul release sword. After she awakened to become the second generation of Heaven and Tyrant, she slaughtered the entire family, even killing her mother. The others were silent, because they all knew clearly the power of the top leaders in the world of curse. However, obviously, everyone in Kyoto Jujutsu High School is rebellious. Gojo Satoru taught well, and they all expressed their willingness. The competition started soon. Students from Kyoto and Tokyo appeared in a forest. How to distribute it? Fushiguro Wei looked at Lan Shuyan. Unconsciously, Lan Shuyan seemed to have become their leader. Because Lan Shuyan's ability was the strongest here. I'll follow Tiger Stick, you guys spread out and stop the others. Apart from Todu Aoi, he would be a very good brother to Yuji. Lan Shuyan made arrangements. Fundamentally speaking, although Lan Shuyan is not interested in Todu Aoi, he is really a teacher and friend to Yuji. So Lan Shuyan does not intend to stop them from fighting. Well, that's it. We take the initiative. Zenin Maki had no objection and walked ahead with swaying steps. The others followed. Yuji Itadori. Starting from Yuji Itadori's statement just now, Lan Shuyan only called Yuji Itadori by his surname, without adding, classmate. You can do whatever you want next, I'm going to take care of some personal matters. Lan Shuyan patted Yuji Itadori's shoulder, then ran away without waiting for Yuji Itadori to answer. This made Yuji Itadori a little confused. He looked around, and finally took action on his own. Didn't you agree to follow me and protect me? Lan Shuyan didn't just watch the brotherhood between Yuji Itadori and Aoi Todu foolishly. He might as well go find the cursed spirits and try his reversal of the art transformation without action more. And Lan Shuyan is very clear. At present, the three cursed spirits left by Geto Suguru, Togen, Lugu, and Hanami, are all cooperating with Geto Suguru and will not kill Yuji Itadori. And now the real person who has not come into contact with Yuji Itadori and has the intention to kill him is dead. The swollen phase has not been taken away, and the blood and bad phase are not dead. So, artery, real man, cute big breasts, Walking in the forest, Qingshan Shuiji hugged Yatsuki and looked around, especially Yatsuki was really interested in everything. And Lan Shuyan found a fly soon. It didn't seem to know how to run, and Lan Shuyan caught it directly in his hand. Desire transforms positive energy, and transforms its soul through the reversal of the art transformation without action of his left hand. But this time he didn't transform the body. Instead, he tried to see if he could strengthen the brains of weak cursed spirits like he did with Yoshino Junpei. But soon, the entire cursed spirit exploded, blood and flesh flew everywhere, and then it turned into black ash and disappeared. Really? Lan Shuyan adjusted his glasses. The brain of a cursed spirit of this level is like a walnut, and it can't bear his positive energy. And for a level like Yoyu, even if he casts spell reversal in action transformation, it can only enhance its control over the curse. At this moment, Lan Shuyan was stunned, because he suddenly felt hostility within the range. At the same time, Lan Shuyan also heard a whistle. This made Lan Shuyan roll his eyes. No way, why did the target become me? Hey, didn't you just chop the principal of Layan Temple with a knife? Is it that serious? Lan Shuyan looked at the top of a tree, where Kamo Kenji was crouching on a branch with a whistle in his mouth. According to the original work, wasn't this thing prepared for Itadori Yuji? Although he was beheaded by Hanami before he even appeared on the stage. Qingshan Shuiji glanced at Lan Shuyan and ignored him. She smiled as she watched Yatsuki catch a cicada with his antennae. The cicada was chirping, and Yatsuki ate it. Kamo Kenji didn't actually have any opinion of Lan Shuyan, he was just following orders. Although I have no grudge against you, this is an order. Kamo Kenji put away the whistle he had just blown. We have no grudges, why are you showing hostility to me? Lan Shuyan rolled his eyes, but did not say much. Because at this moment, a man who was swaying from side to side was walking over. He was dressed in a black and white kendo uniform and a samurai sword at his waist. He lowered his head like a puppet. He raised his arm and slowly pulled out the samurai sword at his waist. Judging from the curse power it exuded, it was also a good curse tool, which should be a quasi-special grade curse tool. Lan Shuyan saw through his glasses that this person's curse power was about the same as Fushiguro Megumi. Lan Shuyan was very confused. Why is he a curse master? Layan Temple Joshin should understand how powerful he is, and shouldn't he only send one curse master over, and shouldn't the whistle be used to control curse spirits? Just when Lan Shuyan was thinking about this, the man had already pulled out the samurai sword at his waist. This made Lan Shuyan even more confused. This guy had no hostility towards him, because the hostility here was on Kamo Kenji's side and underground. Isn't he here to fight? Born from darkness to darkness, all filth and dirt, all must be exorcised. The man kneeling in front of Lan Shuyan drew his sword and chanted the spell of tent, and then suddenly stabbed his heart in front of Lan Shuyan's stunned eyes. The next second, Lan Shuyan was wrapped in a small area, only in a tent, with a radius of about 2 meters. No way, big brother. I loaned a specified price to play with the bondage, and you directly use your life to play with the bondage. Are you so tough? Lan Shuyan was speechless. Okay. The moment this tent fell, all the information about it automatically poured into Lan Shuyan's brain, letting him know the effect of this tent. This should be similar to the public ritual, which can enhance the effect. The guy in front of him who stabbed himself with a knife used his life and body to exchange for a powerful tent. The effect of this tent is to prohibit any existence from entering or leaving. This existence includes light, air, animals, people and other existences. This is equivalent to an independent space, and the only relationship with the outside world may be on the ground of the earth. The order that Leonji Yoshinobu instructed to Kamo Kenji was not to kill Itadori Yuji, but to control the brainwashed sorcerer to use his own life to seal Lan Shuyan in the tent that nothing can pass through. In this way, no matter how powerful Lan Shuyan is, he cannot leave. He can only suffocate to death because the air in the tent gradually becomes thin. I have to say that this method is really insidious. Sorry, Kamo Kenji said and turned to leave. Otherwise, he would have to face a special level Shikigami and a quasi-level Shikigami. But soon, Kamo Kenji said directly, "Who am I? Where am I? What did he do?" He couldn't understand. He couldn't understand it at all. At this moment, the dark tent began to shatter. Lan Shuyan yawned and walked out of the shattered place with the amagi in his hand. Kamo Kenji. Sigma degree shock. Ah, are you confused? It's nothing. There is also a space inside the tent. If it is a space, I can break it. Furthermore, as long as I recognize that it is a space, then it is a space. After all, for a sorcerer, imagination is very important. Yes, the concept, space. Lan Shuyan shook the Tien Nihoko in his hand. Space is a concept. As long as it meets the concept of space, it can be broken by the mirror. Moreover, it can interrupt all the magics that are being launched. You guys are such a fool, how can you let people die in vain? Lan Shuyan sighed. Kamo Kenji was like a fool at this time. He looked at Lan Shuyan, then looked at the broken tent, and repeated this many times. After Rakuganji Yoshinobu was stabbed that day, he integrated the intelligence on Lan Shuyan again, and directly asked Aikichi Jigao, the tool man, to come over and then obtain some information about Lan Shuyan's abilities. But Aikichi Jigao didn't know much, and could only report the intelligence he heard from Itadori Yuji. After all, the morning after Lan Shuyan went to the sewer to find the real person, Aikichi Jigao and Itadori Yuji went to find Yoshino Junpei together. Aikichi Jigao was very out of curiosity, he asked some questions without any bad intentions. And Itadori Yuji was obviously a young man who didn't think too much, so he told Aikichi Jigao about his abilities. Really, Aikichi Jigao really felt that his job was too difficult. Everyone in the two jujutsu high schools could tell him what to do. He even wanted to quit his job. But now, Lan Shuyan now possesses the Tensiboko, which Kamo Kenji doesn't understand. Shouldn't this thing have been destroyed by Gojo Satoru? How could it appear in Lan Shuyan's hands? And even with the Tensiboko, it would be impossible to do this, right? That was bound at the cost of one's life. Impossible, impossible. Even with Amasaki Hoko and your ability to see flowers in the mirror, it is impossible to break it. No matter how outrageous the sorcerer's imagination is, it is impossible to achieve this kind of concept. There's space inside the tent. Your space is a concept, not an existence, right? Besides, I am the only enemy here. Even if you copied my spell power and technique and used it to bind me, that amount of power would not be enough to bind me. This is a tent, cast by a quasi-first level sorcerer using his own life, spell power, spells, and quasi-first level spell tools to perform equivalent binding. Even if you copy my cursed power and spells to bind me, the equivalent exchange of the binding will not be able to break this account, even if you have the Amagakiboko. Kamo Kenji's three views were about to be overturned, he was doubting what he had learned. This is like, the Milky Way is also a river. Lan Shuyan did not respond to this question. Who said that you are the only one who is hostile to me here? There is also 100s of meters underground. Sister Hanamiya, the King Kong Barbie, is here. Puff. Qingxuanshuiji, who was walking over, saw that Lan Shuyan had made Kamo Kenji look like he was doubting his life, and laughed insincerely. To be honest, Qingxuanshuiji was not worried at all just now. Because she was used to Lan Shuyan's various tricks. Diu had many tentacles crawling on the ground. She tilted her head in front of Kamo Kenji, then reached out and touched Kamo Kenji's head, as if to comfort him. Well, if you don't look at the transparent spikes that emerged from her palm. Kamo Kenji fell directly to the ground, his whole body began to twitch, and black spots appeared on his body. Then Diu looked at Lan Shuyan directly with an expression of, "Please praise me." This made Lan Shuyan smile and touched her head. "Hey, Grandpa. Come and rescue them quickly. Otherwise he will be poisoned to death." Lan Shuyan looked at the crow standing on the branch not far away. This time Gojo Satoru was not in the observation room, so Yokuganji Yoshinobu should be bolder. And at this moment, Yokuganji Yoshinobu in the observation room did look ugly. Gojo Satoru was indeed not there, but they only knew it at the beginning, because Gojo Satoru left directly, and no one knew that Gojo Satoru would not stay here. Engeji covered her face directly, and then hurriedly got up. She was going to bring Kamo Kenji back and let Ieri Glass treat him. And Mingming glanced at Yokuganji Yoshinobu with a squint, smiled and said nothing. But the moment Engeji got up, the walls and the cursed talisman papers placed in the examination area were all burning with red flames. What? Engeji was very surprised. In just such a short while, all the cursed spirits were destroyed. And the remaining ones disappeared at the same time. No, that's not right. There is a tent falling over there. Mingming stood up and looked at the sky that the crow saw. This made the three of them look at each other and immediately started to leave here and rush to the place where the students were. Lan Shuyan, holding the soul release knife, sensed that the hostility underground had disappeared. To be honest, Hua Yu was more like a spirit, not the same as a cursed spirit. It was more like a plant, and its aura could be hidden very well. This was also the reason why the rescue of the Luahutu from Gojo Satoru and the previous removal of the Luahutu from him were not discovered in the original work. If it had not emitted hostility just now, Lan Shuyan would not have been able to discover it. I killed the real person. Hua Yu is very gentle and cares about the real people. It is natural for him to hate me. As Lan Shuyan was speaking, he suddenly felt the sunlight above his head disappear and turned into darkness. He looked up and saw that the tent had been pulled down. So, what should we do next? Lan Shuyan touched his chin with one hand and walked with the soul release sword in the other. The plot has changed because of his intervention, but Geto Summer Oil will definitely continue to implement the plan to seize Sukuna's finger and the 9 phases diagram. What he is thinking now is, who will go to Tianyuan's maze space to take away Sukuna's finger and the 9 phases diagram? After all, the real person has died in his hands. Not long after walking, Lan Shuyan suddenly saw a blue girl who seemed to have lost her ideals and was staring at the sky blankly. The girl's bangs are very distinctive, and she looks very well behaved. She was wearing a black suit and a samurai scabbard on her waist. Ah, hello, my name is Useless Sanlin. Ah, that's not right. My name is Sanlongxia. Sanlongxia noticed Lan Shuyan's footsteps and greeted him. Lan Shuyan was stunned. Hello. Lan Shuyan responded to Sanlongxia's self-introduction. I'm sorry about last time. It's the same with Yuji-san. Sanlongxia bowed to Lan Shuyan again to apologize. Basically, they were just following orders. It's very dangerous here, you'd better leave quickly. Lan Shuyan didn't care. He knew that the students in Kyoto actually had no hostility towards Yuji Itadori and him. They were just following orders. As he said that, a knife handle emerged from the back of his right hand. Then Lan Shuyan grabbed it and pulled it out, throwing it to Miwa Kasumi. This was the cursed tool carried by the dead warrior just now. He couldn't use it because it was not a special grade cursed tool, but it didn't prevent him from collecting it. Because he felt that this thing could also play a binding bug. But now that Miwa Kasumi is here, it would be very dangerous without a cursed tool, so he just threw it to her. Sanlongxia hurriedly went to take the samurai sword, and then looked at Lan Shuyan with some confusion. For you, this thing won't sell for much money, a quasi-special grade cursed tool, really. Lan Shuyan waved his hand, then turned and left. Lan Shuyan was not interested in the carbon-based biological girl, not to mention that she was the girl that Mekamaru and Kokichi liked. Although Mekamaru, Kokichi and Geto Suguru had cooperated. Mekamaru and Kokichi wanted a complete body to walk in the sun with Miwa Kasumi, so they signed a bondage agreement with Geto Suguru. But now the real person is dead. Maybe they can do him a favor and ask him to help lure Geto Suguru out. The plot begins. This barrier should be the same barrier that refused Gojo Satoru to enter. Unfortunately, they probably don't know that Gojo Satoru is not here at all at this moment. Well, I don't know how many times I need to perform Wu-Wei transformation to transform it into the special grade. Haven't really tried this. It's just right to use the King Kong Barbie Hua Yu for experiments. Lan Shuyan muttered to himself. He walked in a certain direction with the soul release knife. Without hostile copies, moving is really a problem. It's really tiring, but he can't let Qingzhan Shuiji give him a princess hug again, that would be embarrassing. When Lan Shuyan arrived at the scene, he found that the situation was a little different. Fushiguro Megumi and the others were fine, but Yuji Itadori and Aoi Todo met Hanamiya first. Fushiguro Megumi, Inamaki Satoru, and Panda from Tokyo High School were all watching the battle on Yuji Itadori's side. As for Kugasaki Nobara, she was held in the arms of Panda Princess and seemed to have fainted. Zenin Maki was not there. On the side of Kyoto High School, only Nishimiya Momo and Cybermaru were there, and Cybermaru was still floating in the air on the broom. Lan, Fushiguro Megumi and the others were relieved when they saw Lan Shuyan appear. Because they had just fought with others, they didn't know that the person that Kyoto wanted to get rid of this time was Lan Shuyan, not Itadori Yuji. Why are you still alive? Where's Kamo? Nishimiya Dao's tone was a little anxious, without any hatred, but mixed with tension. In fact, everyone on their side knew that Kamo Kenji had accepted the order to deal with Itadori Yuji, and even temporarily added a person. At this time, Lan Shuyan was here, proving that Kamo Kenji failed. It should be fine. It depends on whether your teacher can take him away quickly. Oh, I also met a useless tricycle on the way, she is fine too. Lan Shuyan put his hands in his pockets, looking at Yuji Itadori who was fighting with Hanami not far below, and there was also a Tudo Aoi who was watching with her arms crossed. It seems that this pair is still so compatible. The Black Flash should not have been played yet. Don't say that tricycles are useless. Zigong Dao gritted her teeth, like a cat with its fur standing on end. The mechanical pill, which was no longer able to move, also stared at Lan Shuyan. That's not what I called her. She introduced herself as a useless three-wheeler. Lan Shuyan waved his hand and looked at the mechanical pill. Then he stood up and walked in front of the mechanical pill. The real person is dead. Died in my hands. He squatted down and leaned close to the head of the mechanical pill and spoke softly. This scared the real body of the mechanical pill and Kokichi. But Lan Shuyan didn't say anything else, but stood up directly and set his sights on Hanayu who was fighting with Yuji Itadori. Yozuki, Miss Chingshan, Lan Shuyan called out, and Dianyu's tentacles immediately emerged from the back of Lan Shuyan's hand, and then the whole body appeared beside Lan Shuyan. Yozuki, Miss Chingshan, please take good care of Fushiguro and the others. I'll be back soon, Lan Shuyan said as he fixed the mirror flower on Hua-Yu. He then bound Hua-Yu's curse power and technique. Qingzan Shuiji could clearly feel the difference in the restraint this time. She looked at Lan Shuyan with frowned brows. Why didn't this man listen to advice? What kind of restraint did he impose? Lan, you were really disobedient. Qingshan Shuiji raised her hand and pinched Lan Shuyan's cheek. Dianyu tilted her head to look at it, and directly reached out to imitate Qingshan Shuiji and pinched Lan Shuyan's cheek with her hand. The hostility of Kyoka is limited in range. I may be a bit far from here, so I added a time constraint to directly bind the copied spell power and spells. I will use everything in exchange for half an hour of powerful physical ability, and the range of the hostility will not be limited. This time it is really comparable to the Heaven and the Tyrant. Lan Shuyan could feel that his physical ability was stronger than before. What you get from being bound is equivalent to what you are bound. Using Hua-Yu's mirror image spell power and technique to exchange for half an hour of physical ability, the physical ability you get must be ridiculously strong. Qingzan Shuiji raised her hand to support her forehead. She really didn't want to say anything about Lan Shuyan's indiscriminate use of the bondage. The effect of the natural technique was fixed, and the heaven and curse binding was also fixed, but Lan Shuyan couldn't stand it. He used the copied mirror image to bind all kinds of things, which was very buggy. The key is that Lan Shuyan can also avoid all kinds of costs about himself, but use the mirror image to pay for the bondage, that is, it is the mirror image that pays the price, not Lan Shuyan himself. So it's really a loan to use the bondage, and in the end it's the mirror image that pays the loan, and Lan Shuyan is getting it for free. And she also found that Lan Shuyan really likes the ability of Heaven and Tyrant. If Lan Shuyan knew what Qingzan Shuiji was thinking, he would definitely answer yes without hesitation. In addition to the ability of the real person, Lan Shuyan really doesn't like the others. After all, this is a world of fighting back, a group of magicians who have to use their fists as warriors. I'll be back soon, Lan Shuyan said as he disappeared from the spot. His speed was so fast that it was like a frame freeze before he moved. After he disappeared, the place where he had just stood collapsed. Hateful, that guy Gojo Satoru is not here right now. The sense of cursed energy here is that it is of the special grade. Are the students really okay? And Geji was running here, she was very anxious. She took out her cell phone and wanted to call the students. But the next second, a person suddenly appeared behind her. He had a golden ponytail, 3 pink and purple triangle marks under each eye, and wore black clothes that exposed his right shoulder. He held a palm-sized dagger in his hand, and his target was Engeji's neck, obviously wanting to kill with one blow. The person who came was the curse master Shigemin Haruta. To be honest, although Engeji was a quasi-first-level curse master, her combat power was actually not very good, and her technique was auxiliary. Even so, Engeji still knew that there was an attack behind her, but knowing and being able to avoid are the same thing. Engeji knew that she could not dodge it. But, the next second, a big knife was across the back of Engeji's neck. Shigemin Haruta's sword was directly bounced away, and Engeji could only turn around at this time. When she saw clearly that it was Lan Shuyan who saved her, she was stunned for a moment. "You are Gojo-sensei's senior, I will save you this time," Lan Shuyan said, and then looked at Shigemin Haruta. To be honest, although he didn't care about these characters when watching anime, if he had to say, Lan Shuyan also had people he disliked. The first person he disliked was the real person, but Lan Shuyan only wanted his ability. The second person he disliked was Shigemin Haruta, because this guy was the kind of person who was born to be disliked, no matter in the anime or now. The first feeling was dislike, and even Lan Shuyan didn't know why he disliked him. Not good. As soon as Chongmyeon Chun-Tai saw Lan Shuyan, he turned and ran away. But the next second, Lan Shuyan's knife pierced Chongmyeon Chun-Tai's chest directly, and it stabbed Chongmyeon Chun-Tai from the front. "So fast," Engeji exclaimed. Her eyes had been on Lan Shuyan, but Lan Shuyan seemed to disappear suddenly. When she caught sight of Lan Shuyan again, she found that he was standing in front of Chongmyeon Chun-Tai, with the blade piercing the chest of the person who attacked her. Puff! Lan Shuyan pulled out the soul-release sword and shook off the blood on the sword. Chongmyeon Chun-Tai fell directly to the ground. Lan Shuyan turned around and was about to leave, but he paused. He looked back at Chongmyeon Chun-Tai's body. If I remember correctly, Chongmyeon Chun-Tai's technique is to store miracles, which is to erase and store the small miracles that happen every day in his memory, and release them when his life is in danger. Lan Shuyan returned to Chongmyeon Chun-Tai's body again. He had to finish him off. Lan Shuyan is a very extreme person. His hobbies are very extreme, and when he decides to do something, he also uses extreme means. This can be seen from the time when he was bullied in his previous life and couldn't bear it anymore and exchanged 1 for 4. So, when Gojo Satoru helped him, Lan Shuyan had already decided to help him do something. Since he has decided to help, Lan Shuyan will help to the end. So, Lan Shuyan directly reached out and grabbed Shigematsu Haruta's hair and pulled it up. The powerful 5 senses obtained by the bondage made Lan Shuyan realize that Shigematsu Haruta was still alive, and the purple lines at the corners of his eyes seemed to be a little lighter. So, Lan Shuyan directly threw Shigematsu Haruta in the air, holding the soul-release sword in one hand and swinging it quickly. In just 1 second, it is unknown how many knives were chopped. When Lan Shuyan stopped, Shigematsu Haruta's body was still intact. But the moment the body fell back to the ground, it exploded, turning into countless pieces of flesh and blood splattered all over the ground. In this way, even if you are lucky, you will die, right? Lan Shuyan looked down at the mess of blood and flesh on the ground and muttered to himself. And Engeji took several steps back. It was the first time she saw such a cruel first-year student. This kind of unhesitating style of abusing corpses really shocked her understanding of students. "Next one," Lan Shuyan said, and his body disappeared again, leaving only the smoke and dust on the ground. Quote. Engeji was silent for a while, then turned around and left. As for Lan Shuyan, he had already come to Legenji Joshin's side. The group of flats were fighting with Legenji Joshin, and the appearance of Lan Shuyan immediately attracted the attention of the two. Legenji Joshin was silent. In short, Legenji Joshin was an old stubborn man, and he listened to the words of the high-ranking magicians. Blue Book. Words. The height is very good. Since Gojo Satoru is not here, then I will use your bones to make a clothes hanger. Obviously, Hibachi Tanzo knows Lan Shuyan. And Hibachi Tanzo should have learned from Lei Temple Joshin that Gojo Satoru is not at Jujutsu High School now. Grandpa, do you think I can kill you now? After all, you have tried to kill me twice, and the high-ranking sorcerer has set his sights on my parents. Lan Shuyan avoided the attack of the blockhouse tanner like a leisurely stroll. This guy's fighting ability was not very good, so Lan Shuyan chatted directly with Liansi Joshin. This made Liansi Joshin hold his guitar tightly. Fundamentally speaking, Liansi Joshin had no way to deal with Lan Shuyan now. His ability had lost its lower limit after being restrained. Forget it. Lan Shuyan casually chopped off the limbs of the HDB Tanzao. It looked like he only swung the knife once, but it was actually 4 times, chopped the HDB Tanzao into a human stick. I like to do things to the extreme. Lan Shuyan walked to the side of the HDB Tanzao. Having lost his limbs, he rolled on the ground and wailed. Puff! Lan Shuyan directly cut off the HDB Tanzao's neck, and the wailing stopped. Then Lan Shuyan looked back at Liansi Joshin, and his body disappeared again. Liansi Joshin's face became more and more ugly. He knew why Lan Shuyan didn't attack him, because Lan Shuyan had family. If he really did something to the extreme, Lan Shuyan himself was not afraid, but he was afraid that the high-level cursors would jump off the wall and attack his family directly. In fact, it was indeed the case. Lan Shuyan had made up his mind. Once he decided to do something, he liked to do it once and for all, to the extreme. He won't give anyone any way out, so he won't kill anyone in the high-level curse arts before he can solve all of them at once. At least, now there is Gojo Satoru suppressing them. They will be wary, and today's events, his abilities, will be passed on to the high-level curse arts by Rakuganji Yoshinobu, and they will also weigh the consequences. Appear again. Lan Shuyan has returned to Chingshan Shueiji and Yojuki. At this time, the battle between Yuji Itadori and Hanami is still going on, but Todo Aoi has joined in. It seems that Yuji Itadori should have used the Black Flash. But the students who originally stayed here have left. Next, shall we settle the account? Lan. Although there was no blood on Lan Shuyan's body, Chingzan Shueiji could smell the blood on Lan Shuyan's body. He must have killed someone just now. This account doesn't affect anything. It just denies Gojo Satoru from entering, but other people can enter at will. It has no effect. I would rather. Lan Shuyan placed his left palm towards Hua-Yu below, and then clenched it tightly. Special grade is not so easy to be tamed by you. I became your Shikigami because I am willing, and I don't even need your response. The reason why Dianyu followed you was because its owner at that time was willing to give it to you, and Dianyu was also born not long ago. And the cursed spirit that is obviously fighting with the 2 little brats will not become your Shikigami. Chingshan Shueiji knew what Lan Shuyan was thinking, and he must want to transform the cursed spirit into a cursed spirit mother again. Chingshan Shueiji actually had no objection to Lan Shuyan's collection of cursed spirit mothers. Because Lan Shuyan's previous 2 hosts also had their own cursed spirit Shikigami, but they were not cursed spirit mothers like Lan Shuyan, but various native cursed spirits, and they liked female cursed spirits, which was the same for 3 generations. Then proceed to tame it. If it doesn't work once, try a few more times. It will always succeed. Lan Shuyan replied with a grin. The meaning of this word is similar to the way Fushiguro Megumi tamed his own 10 shadows. Beat the cursed spirit until it is weak, and then force it to be tamed, that is, to make it sign a contract similar to binding, and make it your Shikigami. Black Flash. Just as Lan Shu was speaking, a loud shout came from Yuji Itadori. Or rather, 3 more loud shouts followed. Another black flash, and 3 consecutive hits. This made Hanamiya slide back a long distance, and a large amount of purple liquid spit out of her mouth. Hanamiya half knelt on the grass and pressed her left palm on the grass. This was the deceptive ability of Hanamiya's left hand, or it could be said that it was independent of its own technique, because its ability was activated by the flower offering on the shoulder, and what was activated was the field expansion. It should be almost done, right? Lan Shuyan disappeared again and ran all the way. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Hua-Yu, and pinched Hua-Yu's face with one hand, pulled up his body, and suddenly smashed it to the ground. With the landing point as the center, a wave-like ground surge exploded, and a half-meter deep pit appeared. Lan. Yuji Itadori called Lan Shuyan's last name in surprise. He was still worried about Lan Shuyan because Todo Aoi told him about Kamo Kenki. The following is the current attribute panel of the protagonist. Name: Lan Shuyan. Binding: Heaven and Curse Binding. Technique: Mirror Round and Perfect. Ability: Mirror flower water moon, mirror viewing flowers. Binding heaven and curse binding. Lose all the curse power, obtain the technique and ability, but the general technique is in a fused state, and can only be perceived when there is curse power. Technique mirror around and perfect ability. Unlike ordinary sorcerers, the technique is not in the brain, but in the palms of both hands. The effect of the technique is to transform the emotions generated by oneself into curse power through the technique, and reverse the curse power into positive energy. Under the bondage, it can be added to the object's technique curse power, enhance the power of the technique or obtain special effects. Ability mirror flower. Mirror flower can sense hostility within a certain range, and specify a hostility to obtain mirror fusion, obtain the enemy's curse power and technique, lose various experiences, and gain body autonomy. At the same time, it can also use the copy mirror to perform various loan bonds, and the price will be paid by the copy mirror obtained. Ability Water Moon can gain 10 seconds of physical autonomy. If you first tell the other party that you want to obtain the other party's technique, and then use Kun Kun to be 1 centimeter shorter as a price, and kill the owner of the mirror image within 10 seconds, you can obtain the other party's technique 100%. Ability Mirror Flower. Like Black Flash, it is a skill for using cursed power, but it must be blessed by a cursed tool. Through the positive energy of your palm, the cursed power of the cursed tool is converted into positive energy, and the two positive energies are superimposed and thrown out. The power is 5 times the power of positive energy curse. Physical interruption of spellcasting. Lan Shuyan's attack directly interrupted the expansion of the domain of King Kong Barbie Hua Yu. Lan, Yuji Itadori called out. This made Lan Shuyan let go of Hua Yu, and then turned around and smiled at Yuji Itadori. Although I don't have any magical power, through these glasses, I can still see that the flow of your magical power has become more orderly. Very good. It seems that Dongtang is indeed a good teacher for you. Leave it to me next. Lan Shuyan threw the soul release knife back into the space on the back of his hand, and took out the Yuyun instead. The 3-section staff danced wildly as Lan Shuyan swung it. Think carefully and see if you need to implement the field again. You should have heard about my abilities from MT. Fuji, right. I can break your territory at any time. I know that the domain you cast does not require your own magic power, but the vitality of the plants you absorb. But how much plant life can you absorb as a magic spirit who shouts to protect nature? Lan Shuyan grinned and tucked the 3-section staff under his armpit, without any intention of attacking first. Hua Yu didn't have glasses, but Lan Shuyan knew that it had been staring at him after it stood up. Hee, your soul is very violent and angry. After Lan Shuyan obtained the Wu Wei transformation, he could actually see the soul, so this could make the soul release sword more powerful, but it was also because of this that he could not use the soul release sword on Hua Yu. Otherwise, he would be so happy that he accidentally killed the soul. Really, you have great abilities. However, the existence of restraints is not unique to you. Hua Yu jumped back a long distance and pressed his left palm on the lawn again. The flowers, plants and trees were withering quickly, and even like dry dust, they would fly away with a gust of wind. And Lan Shuyan grinned. Ouch, what are you doing? Just now, a gentleman used his life to exchange for restraints and trapped me, and now you also want to play with restraints. I can think of dozens of restraints in a minute to break your domain. Do you believe it? Wait, Lan Shuyan suddenly thought, can I remove the current mirror restraints, and then use the mirror flower to copy Hua Yu's magic power and spells to restrain him, losing everything in exchange for a 100% successful transformation of the soul by inaction transformation? Or after copying again, restraining in exchange for a domain expansion, will such a restraint conflict with the price of the restraint I set before, cannot expand the domain? Hiss. The former seems to be worth a try. Forget the latter. If it really conflicts, I will be 1 centimeter shorter after the domain is cast. Now I am only 24, so I have to use it sparingly. I still can't try it easily unless I have to. But the problem with the former is that I have to be able to touch Hua Yu. Wait, suddenly, Lan Shuyan, who has an extremely creative mind, seems to have found another bug. That is, the physical ability that he just copied Hua Yu's mirror image and bound it for half an hour, so after the physical ability is released, will it continue to be maintained because the time has not yet expired? If this is the result, Then if the mirror image is bound again to the former condition, then Lan Shuyan can easily touch Hua Yu. Then, Lan Shuyan grinned brightly. He was a sunny and cheerful boy. So Lan Shuyan immediately released the current, mirror flower. Just as Lan Shuyan thought, the benefits of the previous, mirror flower's mirror restraint were still maintained on him. Ha 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 ha, I successfully found another bug. The previous restraint is equivalent to a time restraint, which has nothing to do with whether I can remove the mirror flower or not. I am such a genius, Lan Shuyan said as he activated mirror flower again and used the mirror image copied from Hua Yu to bind her again. The benefit of this binding is that as long as he touches Hua Yu's body and casts transformation without action, he will be 100% successful in transforming Hua Yu's soul. The price of this binding is the loss of the spell power and technique used to obtain the mirror image this time. Well, Lan Shuyan still didn't pay any price. The price he had to pay was that he violated the conditions of the binding he set at the beginning and could not expand the domain. As long as Kun Kun violated them, he would be 1 centimeter shorter. This price is very equal, right? For a man, it is absolutely equal. Domain expansion, eat the sea of light. At the moment when Lan Shuyan's experiment was successful, Hua Yu also directly expanded the domain, and the surroundings were instantly wrapped in black. The interior of the space also began to change. A colorful sea of flowers, strange trees. I will lose my ability to move and the effect of the domain's sure hit, in exchange for forcing the moving human to be hit and bound, and absorbing your vitality, converting it into the domain's curse power until the other party dies. Hua Yu's voice echoed. Although he clearly didn't understand, the meaning of the words directly emerged in Lan Shuyan's mind. In other words, if I don't move, your domain can't move me. Lan Shuyan touched his chin and said with a hint of sarcasm. This made Hua Yu full of question marks. No, you understand it this way. Indeed, as long as Lan Shuyan doesn't move, its domain really can't cause any harm to Lan Shuyan. Although it is to attract the attention of the Jujutsu High School, Hua Yu has made 2 worst-case plans. One is Gojo Satoru, and the other is Lan Shuyan. These 2 people are very difficult. Therefore, Hua Yu has made sufficient preparations. Do you think we cursed spirits are all idiots? Although it loses the guaranteed hit effect, it can be controlled visually. Hua Yu raised his hand, and the flowers around him instantly turned into countless flower fairies. They really were those petite and cute flower fairies, very much like elves. And the trees turned into tree people with bared fangs and claws. Yes, it's a tree person, not Joe Shuren. In this way, it doesn't matter whether you move or not. Hua Yu's voice became very cold. At this moment, vines emerged from the tree people and bound Lan Shuyan directly. As for the flower fairies, their slender arms were also entangled like a twist, forming the shape of flower buds, and pointed in the direction of Lan Shuyan. As the flower buds opened, a large amount of mantra power gathered in the flower buds. Lan Shuyan was not the kind of person who would wait in place, so his body moved immediately. But as soon as Lan Shuyan took a step, he instantly felt that his body was bound by countless vines, and Lan Shuyan could also feel the vitality of the details being absorbed. Oh, is it true that no matter how fast I am, as long as I move I will be forcibly restrained and hit? Lan Shuyan looked at the vines that were wrapped around him, and then looked at the cute flower fairies who were holding their flower buds and aiming their spell cannons at him. Then he grinned. Hua Yu is very smart. The restraint is that he can restrict it with or without cursed energy. With cursed energy, Lan Shuyan has to move. Without cursed energy, Lan Shuyan still has to move. But Lan Shuyan just grinned, and his powerful physical ability broke free from the vines that bound him. He grinned at the cursed energy bombardment that was being fired from all directions. Boom, I have to say, the power is quite strong. The entire domain collapsed directly. This collapse did not come from the exhaustion of the domain's cursed energy, but from an internal attack that caused the domain to collapse directly. Generally speaking, the inside of a domain is solid, while the outside is relatively weak. If the inside of a domain is shattered by an attack from within, then you can imagine how powerful those flower fairy cannons were just now. The domain was shattered, and Hua Yu returned directly to where it was. It looked around and did not see Lan Shuyan. Yuji Itadori and Aoi Todu widened their eyes because they did not see Lan Shuyan. Lan, Yuji Itadori ran over and shouted at the place where the domain was broken. His tone was very anxious. He was very confident in Lan Shuyan just now, but now the domain was broken, only Yu came out, but Lan Shuyan didn't, which made Yuji Itadori feel bad. He's dead. Hanami is very weak now, having been hit by too many black flashes, and using too much cursed energy to reverse the cursed energy to recover from the injury. It doesn't know if the other side's plan succeeded. It doesn't have too much cursed energy to fight with Itadori Yuji and Todo Aoi. If it insists on continuing, it can only use its left hand to absorb the vitality of the plants and cast the domain again. But it has already used Flower Offering twice today, and it doesn't know if it can be cast again. Kill you. Unable to find Lan Shuyan, Yuji Itadori suddenly looked at Hanamiya. His eyes were full of killing intent, and as he clenched his fists, blue-black cursed energy wrapped around his fists. Tiger stick, calm down. At this time, Lan Shuyan's lazy voice sounded, and this voice came from Yu's side. Yu turned back suddenly, but at this moment Lan Shuyan's palm was already on Yu's back. Impossible. Yu immediately swung his arms, and countless branches turned into sharp wooden thorns to attack Lan Shuyan. But Lan Shuyan had already disappeared. When his figure reappeared, he was already standing next to Yuji Itadori. Lan, are you okay? Yuji Itadori blinked and asked Lan Shuyan cutely. Of course, it's just the expansion of a domain. Lan Shuyan rolled his eyes at Yuji Itadori, speechless. Do I, Lan Shuyan, look like someone who would be solved by a domain? But just now, Yuji Itadori thought he was killed, and the hatred and remarks he revealed to Hanami made Lan Shuyan feel happy. Who's really cares about his companions? How is it possible? How can you be safe and sound after enduring that kind of cursed attack? Yu really doesn't understand. It is certain that Lan Shuyan must have endured the cursed cannon attack, and he endured it completely. Good question. Because I used the cloud to knock away all the attacks at that moment. Otherwise, why do you think those cursed cannons can blow up your domain? You don't really think your cursed cannon has the power to break your own understanding, right? And the moment the domain was broken, I was already behind you. Lan Shuyan grinned, raised the back of his left hand and shook it. This made Yu stunned for a moment, and then suddenly thought of something. But soon the whole soul calmed down. Because it knew that the real person's inaction transformation could not transform the soul of a being with powerful cursed power in one blow. And it is special grade, even if there is not much cursed power now, but the soul is still strong enough, so Lan Shuyan must touch it at least 4 times. That's right. Yu and the others also knew that Lan Shuyan had obtained the real person's technique. After the mechanical pill learned about Lan Shuyan's new information today, it told Yuji and others, and Yuji also told Yu and others. And Yuji said that it is best not to fight with Lan Shuyan. Even if you really fight, you can kill him if you have the chance. For Yuji, he knows where to get the real person's inaction transformation again. Pop. At this moment, a sound like a balloon bursting was heard. Hanami looked up and saw that the tent had been broken. A person was floating in the sky. It was Gojo Satoru. He had indeed left here, but an Utahime called him right after she came out of the observation room, so Gojo Satoru rushed back immediately. Never mind, I'm not confident enough to fight Gojo Satoru. Yu immediately thought of retreating. But the next second, it felt something was wrong, because its entire body was wriggling. How is that possible? Yu understood what was going on in an instant. Just now, it obviously only felt that it was touched by Lan Shuyan once. Tisk tisk tisk. You will never understand how outrageous it is for someone to take out a loan to buy bondage and still get it for free. What a pity. The spell reversal inaction transformation that was successful at one time cannot change the detailed appearance according to my needs. This is a binding bug. I am blocking its bug and it is also blocking my bug. It is outrageous. Let me see what you can change into randomly. Lan Shuyan was looking forward to it. Just now, when he put his palm on Yu to perform the spell reversal inaction transformation, he found that he could only make Yu look more like a girl, and could not change to the appearance he wanted according to his own ideas. Yu's body was shrinking. This shrinkage was not the kind of becoming petite. There were many vine-like things on the bald head, and the chest began to bulge, and was wrapped by green vines into a one-piece green dress. In an instant, Hua Yu turned into a petite, green-haired, white-skinned flower fairy covered with green leaves. The character setting is here Hua Yu flower fairy version. Lan Shuyan widened his eyes. What the hell? We want a queen. The kind of queen with long legs. How come it turned into such a petite appearance? Hua Yu's voice was still that of an independent system, and it appeared in the heads of Lan Shuyan and others again, but the voice was still that of a queen. She used branches to wrap her body and dived directly into the ground. Because at this moment, Gojo Satoru in the sky was already looking at her, and if she didn't run, she would definitely die. Oh, the speed is quite fast. Did my positive energy injection make her recover? Lan Shuyan was very surprised. As for Hua Yu running away, it doesn't matter. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.